Our top story this hour, China and the United States have met in Beijing over the stalled North Korea nuclear talks as Pyongyang's deadline looms, but neither side is saying what has transpired. Pyongyang has been conducting weapons tests in recent weeks as it piles pressure on Washington to offer new concessions before the end of the year. Washington's special envoy has asked Pyongyang for talks, but is yet to receive a response. Now, for more on this, North Korea expert and political commentator Gordon Chang joins us live from New York. Gordon, no word on the talks between the U.S. and China. What are the chances, then, that the U.S. will consider easing sanctions on North Korea?
Well, I don't think that that's going to happen, especially in a near or intermediate term. The U.S. has actually not robustly enforced sanctions for more than a year and a half. And so, you know, it hasn't worked out for the U.S., and so there are a number of voices that want the U.S. to actually apply much more pressure. President Trump didn't ease the sanctions at their February summit in Hanoi. He hasn't done so since then. So the chance of easing sanctions until there are real concessions by North Korea is just not very likely.
So why won't the U.S. soften its stance on North Korea then?
Well, I don't think the U.S. should soften its stance on North Korea because the North Koreans haven't been making concessions in the last year and a half. We've got to see that Kim Jong-un is negotiating in good faith. He has actually blocked the working groups. And so, you know, I don't see the reason for letting up on the North Koreans at this point.
Well, the U.S. North Korean envoy, Stephen Biegun, reportedly asked to meet with Pyongyang earlier this week, but said he didn't receive a response. What do you think is happening there?
What's happening there has been what's happening really for the last 18 or so months. There was one working level group meeting in, I think it was Scandinavia, that was in October. But, you know, really the North Koreans, they walked out on that after 8 hours. They're not really serious. So the fact that they stiffed Biegun this time, that's not news.
Okay, then what do you make of North Korea's year-end deadline? Because it is, after all, approaching this Christmas gift that it keeps talking about.
Yeah, this is important because it shows that the North Koreans have made a very public stance. And they've got to do something because they've boxed themselves in, which means that there could be a Christmas gift, as they talk about, or there could be something in the new year. I tend to think it'll be in the new year, but they've got to do something provocative because they said they're going to. So we can expect a launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile or perhaps a detonation of a thermonuclear device in the atmosphere, something that they promised in September 2017. So there will be something occurring, and it probably will catch everyone's attention.
You seem quite certain of this. What do you think the response or reaction will be to something like the things you described?
I think President Trump will try to downplay it as he has, but I think that the North Koreans will do something that will require a response of some sort. And probably President Trump is going to try to use that to build more international consensus. I don't think that China or Russia is in a mood to help him right now. So this will get increasingly intense, as indeed it should.
So do you think then that we are sort of further away than we sort of ever have been from the summit in Hanoi?
We're much further away because, you know, President Trump had a very successful policy through the middle of May of last year when he was robustly enforcing sanctions. The North Koreans were making concessions. Since he's eased up and he said, look, he's trying to create this favorable atmosphere for talks, the North Koreans haven't been discussing anything in good faith. So going forward, the U.S. is going to have to apply much more pressure. This will get tense, and unfortunately, that's the way the North Koreans negotiate. They're not making concessions. They're not talking in good faith. It doesn't really leave the United States with much choice but to go back to strict sanctions enforcement and to increase the temperature.
Okay, well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us this evening. North Korea expert and political commentator Gordon Chang speaking to us from New York.